Howdy. This is Laoshi Lawrence McElroy for Water Tiger School. And our weekly, almost weekly, not all weeks. As a matter of fact, there won't be a workshop next Monday. Probably still be a video. It is, of course, President's Day on the 15th. So we're not going to do a full workshop, but probably like we did for Martin Luther King Jr. Day, we'll post a short little reminder video and maybe address the day somehow with, I don't know, a temple story of some kind. So anyway, we are here, Water Tiger, for Sachem, but also for everybody else, for the Sachem Public Library program, Holbrook, New York, that has been suspended due to, I don't know if you know this, but there's this coronavirus pandemic going on. So anyway, this is actually round 2. You know, we always like to tell you that we shoot these things as if live, and that's what we did yesterday morning. It's Saturday for us. It's Monday for you because it's posted Monday at 10 a.m. But we did the shoot yesterday afternoon and went to upload the video, and only half of it was there. Not exactly sure what happens. Hope it doesn't happen again. And the things we do to, get these out to you. I know I've mentioned in these videos that my training space / Water Tiger School studio is in the basement of our townhouse, and it's unheated. And when it's cold outside, it's cold here. So if, I start moving really slowly and see icicles forming on the ends of my nose, on the ends, there's more than one, end of my nose, then you know something's going on. But we'll be moving. So today, I don't really have much announcement-wise. We are, as of this moment, coming into what will be, this will post to the page and to the YouTube channel on Monday the 8th. So our 7-day average in Suffolk County on Long Island is doing pretty well. It's slowly crawling its way back down. And we're in the 5 percentile range. It wasn't that long ago we were, pushing 10 or 11%. And hospitalization beds available, the average between regular beds and ICU beds is 23% available. It's not a great number, but it's better than 0. So there we go. I'll probably say a little bit more about that at the end. But that's what I got for now. I'm going to take a little drink here, a little sip. So I realized recently, I may have even said something, that over all this time, let's see, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, and we're in February. We've been doing these since the 23rd of March. It's been a while. Something that we haven't done is walking backwards. We've done all sorts of things walking forward, but we haven't done walking backwards. So we're going to do that. We're going to introduce, how we first introduce walking backward. You can probably guess what that is. And then introduce you to Water Tiger School's approach to the Tai Chi walk backwards. So there you go. Don't expect me to talk backwards. I don't do that very well. Sometimes I do that sort of fake tape deck rewind when I screw up saying something and it sounds terrible. It doesn't sound anything like it's supposed to. You may need some things. When we get to our warm-ups, the warm-ups today, we're going to do a little light aerobic warm-up. I'll give you modifications. But our two things we're going to do, 2 stretches, an upper body and a lower body, are kind of intense. So again, I'll give you modifiers. You may be doing something else than what we are doing. But when it comes to the lower body stretch, you may need a yoga block if you have one. Remember, I get mocked for this, always pointing out every home should have a complete works of Shakespeare, but it'll work. I'll show you how. A chair, a stool, something, and I'll review those uses as we get to them. It is for, drum roll please, just shook the camera. What was I saying? Split leg hamstring stretch. So that's the lower body. We're going to intensify a side stretch for the upper body. And I think that's it. I think I said more during take one yesterday, but it was probably just silly stuff. Oh, that's probably what I said, now that I'm thinking about it. There is a video on the YouTube channel under the stretching and physical training playlist. Back in July, we posted a video on the split leg hamstring stretch. I'm not going to do intensifiers today. I'm actually going to show you how to deepen the stretch. This is something that has crossed my path in the last month during January. So anyway, chewing my mint. I'm going to move my med ball over. I have a life goal. We have med balls that we use in some of our physical training. It's a 12-pounder. I use it to sit on. I use it to hold me in med ball push-ups, but I don't use it to hold while I'm working out. Someday maybe I will. I don't use it yet to jump up and down with extra weight. So again, a little aerobic warm-up, get some blood going. Maybe I'll be able to remove a layer. We're going to start with march. I think everybody can handle some degree of marching. At least I hope so. Oops, I did this yet. It's like a repeat of yesterday. Instead of the stopwatch, I started the timer. Did that yesterday as well when we were doing this. So march, you make hands as targets. You bring your knees to your hands, not the hand. You're not dribbling the knees. So if you have a little bit less range of motion, hands are a little bit lower. You have a little bit bigger range of motion. By the way, if I say, like greater or smaller ranges of motion from time to time, that's not a criticism. It's not saying greater means better. It just means, more range of motion. It's just a thing. We're going to open up the knees now. That was about 20 seconds. I do 20 seconds usually. You can do closed fists. If you can't open up the legs like that, then keep them forward and just do another 20 seconds. But this sort of changes where the warm-up's going, where the heat's going, where it's being generated. Now, if you can, you're going to run in place, right? But you can make it just sort of a more vigorous march. Knees up, if you can, about this high. Just want to get some blood and oxygen going to the muscles before we stretch them. Oops, I missed my 20-second mark, so I'm going to go wide. Again, you can stay if you're jogging, but you can't open up your knees. That's okay. Again, just maybe with some vigor. If you can't run or really tone it down. And now little half jacks. So half jacks look like this. But you can do step jacks. Whatever works. You can spin. I think I did this last time we did one of these. Make it fun. Now I'm going to mime jumping rope. Again, do little kicks. Do just little ballistic kicks. If you don't want to come up off the ground. Double feet's a little bit more intense. And there you go, little huggers. So I'm a little bit warmer. You can maybe hear me breathing. I'm going to take off a layer. We'll have our shirt reveal for the week. Ta-da. Oops, it's not really revealed yet. Hi, Poppy. It's really not a very good marketing t-shirt from a grand opening. It says, the Miller Family Campus, grand opening with the date all the way back. I think that's 08 if I'm reading it right upside down. Help is a four-legged word. It's actually for, I have the name of the organization here, Canine Companions for Independence, CCI. They're a 501c3, so, Google them, look them up. They do good work, if you can and feel like it, send them some money. So the first stretch, I have, by the way, two things I want to mention. See, I knew that I'd talk more. One is about the t-shirt, and there is an ad for something, but it's not them on the sleeve. I've barely ever doubled up on a t-shirt here. In other words, like last year's the 2020 World Tai Chi Day, I wore more than once. There is a couple of other shirts that have seen both a YouTube video and one of these sessions for Sachem. But otherwise, all those months, all those weeks, we're at somewhere over 40 now. Getting close to 52, obviously. But hardly a repeated t-shirt. The other thing, we haven't really repeated very many warm-ups. There was a time back in the day when we started, when we were just covering and hoping that it would just be for a short time, that we were doing a warm-up that we were scheduled to do at Sachem. So like when we first started, I think it was a wide leg hamstring stretch every time, every week for a while. But aside from that, we haven't repeated any warm-ups. So we're getting close to having to. So the first stretch is an intensified version of a standing side stretch. So I'll give you can do what we're doing if you can. If that's too intense for you, if you don't have the range of motion yet to be able to do it, then but you can do a standard side stretch, yoga side stretch, then do that. If that's too much for you, do some version of a side stretch. We have various pick the fruit exercises. We have one that we presented that you're, arcing my palms forward and a little arc and the elbows open and holding that from side to side. And we're only going to do, one side, so you're not repeating from side to side as we're holding one side. And you have the 9 temple exercises version where you're looking up. Be careful if you do that because of the neck. But we're going to do an intensified yoga side stretch. And in this side stretch, the palm is forward. A standard yoga side stretch, most of the time the palm is down. The other hand is down. Not going to do that today. Something else I forgot to do, which I forgot to do in the first run of this. And somebody in the last few weeks of our time with West Babylon Public Library in what had been an ongoing program that's going away at the end of the month, somebody asked me to put an X on my left shoulder, so they always knew where my left shoulder was. So there you go. If you can see it, great. If you can't, well, this is my left shoulder. So we're not going to have the feet together. We're going to have them open at about hip width. You can go to a little bit inside of shoulder width. You see my blue lines? I'm just right inside my blue lines. So I'm a little beyond my hips, but I'm not quite at my shoulder width. We're going to lift one arm up. I'm lifting my left arm up. I want to point out that I'm not smashing it against my head, that I'm keeping distance between the arm and my head. Now I'm going to take my right hand, reach it up, move my Fitbit out of the way, grab my right wrist, and I'm going to lengthen my left arm by pulling it as I extend my right. So I'm using my right arm to extend the stretch, intensify the stretch in the lat, and then I'm going to start to, through pulling, it's the right arm that is creating this stretch. Boom. And I want to point out, both arms are in the plane of my torso. I'm not in the front plane in this stretch. So if you're doing traditional yoga stretch, if you're doing a pick the fruit exercise, then you're holding that position while we're doing this. Feels so good in my lat. Let me tell you. You know that 2-day lag time that you start to get when you're older, and release. So now the right arm is the one that's extended. You know, it tends to, it's sort of a combination between the fisheye, slight fisheye lens of this camera and the fact that the sign behind me doesn't hang straight. But I always look like I am not straight, but I am. So now I'm taking my left hand, if I can, grabbing my right wrist, using my left arm to extend the length of my right. And by the way, I did do it on the first side. You really should turn and look up to the eye of your elbow, elbow fold, or up past your fingers. And I'm aiming in my mind to sort of get to where I might be imagining a little bit higher ceiling, where the ceiling and the wall meet. Oh, breathing. I realize all the time, actually, I'm just reminded. I mean, you probably can hear my little moans and groans as I stretch and release. I'll shake that out. It's one of the things when we're doing yoga and that sort of thing, it's okay to hear your breath and to hear sounds. When we're doing our tai chi, well, most all of our tai chi and most all of our Qigong, we want to make sure that the breath cannot be heard. Did I turn this on airplane mode? Probably not. Nope, there we go. So there's the first stretch. The second, the split leg hamstring stretch, this is where you may need one of those tools. You know, a chair. So you can be in the position and have that support. Stools a little bit closer to the ground, sort of in between chair height and yoga block height. Yoga blocks, if you haven't seen this before, you have up. Make sure it's on camera. There you go. Now you can see the floor. And I'm doing a light version of the split leg hamstring stretch. So up is the highest, right? So that's when hamstrings are really tight. Then as things start to loosen, you go to the flat. And by the time you're at the flat, and maybe the flat in the palm of your hand, then the yoga block can actually go away and you have your fingertips. You can do sort of the same process with the complete works of Shakespeare. Of course, either you have to bind the book closed or you have to hold it. So in that highest position, you're holding it. See how I'm doing the proper product placement. I have the binding facing you, so maybe in the distance you can tell. It's the Riverside edition. I usually bring the Bevington down here, so I thought I'd be different. So the next one, on the side, don't hold the binding side. You're not going to get support. Hold the open side, and you'll have the support. Then it works just like the yoga block down on its side. And then by the time you get the palm down, then you can get the fingers down. That's how you use the yoga block. Your alternate here is a slow, long hold of, we do the polka stretch from time to time. We have where we're doing this and switching back and forth. It's actually, we've replaced the split leg hamstring stretch in our group 6 warm-ups and switched it to the polka stretch. But what you do is you just make that a static stretch. And we did sort of a version of this, but just do this. wherever you are in your height. And we've also showed you at some point a toned down stretch for those who can't eat, that's even too low. You set it on a stool, you set it on complete works of Shakespeare, you set it on a chair, and you hang out here. So I just want you to get a hamstring stretch. But if you can hang with me and do a split leg hamstring stretch, great. And there are all sorts of levels of the split leg hamstring stretch. So I'm going to take the back foot, I'm going to stay on my blue line because the heels have to be in alignment. This is not a split leg hamstring stretch. This is not a split leg hamstring stretch. This is. You don't want too much distance between them. Oops. You don't want to be too close. Just right. Right, now I might make an adjustment as I go down. First thing to do is square off the hips. Some of you are now done. This is the stretch that you're holding, because this is all the flexibility you currently have. Or you have balance issues going down. Fine. Right? And by the way, there's one more thing that you can use, and that's your leg to hold yourself. Now, we're not going to do the whole yoga thing. Most of the time you'd start in prayer hand, lift up, and do the swan dive down. We're just going to do the forward fold. So you're lifting up out of your hips. That's the crown point of the head, not held, but lifted to the heavens. Begin the forward fold. The back is straight, and start to move into it. So this is what, using the leg does. And by the way, using the leg also will help you keep the leg straight, because I'm putting pressure on the knee, keeping the leg straight. I'm going to go to the floor here. I'm going to breathe. Couple of breaths. Now, I'm going to find an exhale. This is how you increase your range of motion. And exhale as I bend that knee. What, Lawrence? You just said the knee's not supposed to bend. This is a different situation. Feel that. Feel that you're closer to the ground. I'm a little bit deeper into the pads of my fingers and closer to the palms of my hand. Now I'm going to straighten and seek to keep my hands in that same position, not come any higher up. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a little bit lower. I'm going to bend that leg again. I'm going to go to my closed fists. So now I'm closer to the floor again. And as I exhale, some people might do this on an inhalation. I prefer an exhalation. I'm going to work to keep those proximal phalanges on the ground. And breathe. And I'm going to bend the leg again. I don't know if I have this in me today. Palms of my hands. And straighten the leg again. Oh, nope, I got to bring the heels of the palms up off the ground. So I'm almost there, but not quite. Now everybody, if you're doing the split leg hamstring stretch or another stretch, you can go ahead and release that stretch. This time if it's a split leg, you bend the knee and roll up out of it. And that's the first side. So again, the second side, if you're doing that static polka stretch kind of thing, you're hanging out here for that length of time. You might try, I haven't explored bending the leg on that one. That's probably going to be tricky on your balance, so be careful with that. It works with a split leg. I'm not sure if it would in that sort of kickstand position. Again, I'm finding the right distance, feeling things out. Now, squaring off the hips. My left hip should be to the left side. There's the X. My right hip should be to the right side. Scissoring the thighs. And again, maybe you went down on the first side, but this is going to be it on this side. I'm going to lift up. Lift the crown point of the head to the heavens instead of hold it there. And a forward fold. And I'm going to walk my hands down the front of my leg. If I need that, I'm going to make a little adjustment, not quite in the right spot. A little bit lower here. This hamstring's not quite as tight as the left one was. A few breaths. You can see me. Some exhaling. Getting closer. I'm already on my proximal phalanges on this side. Lightly closed fists.
And breathe. Let the head hang. If you can. If you have a neck issue, you may have to keep the neck active instead of letting it hang. Find an exhalation, bend the leg. Hang out there. I'm not going to go to the palms of my hands yet. I'm going to spread out the distance where my fists are resting on the floor. Inhale and then exhale and straighten the leg. So I am closer, but I haven't switched to the palms of my hands yet. I'm going to bend the leg on an exhale. We'll go to the palms of the hands now. Inhale. Exhale. And here I can stay with the palms of my hands. Actually, on this side, I can even reverse palm the mat. And kiss my knee. Couldn't do that with the left hamstring. Now exhale. If you're in the split leg hamstring stretch, bend that front leg and come up. Or if you're in the static stretch, the other static stretch, then exhale and come up. And there you go, upper body and lower body. Intensified standing side stretch and split leg hamstring stretch, which is all and on its own an intense stretch. So, when we walk backwards, we start walking backwards sort of the same way that we walk forward. And what I mean by that is our first walking exercise for Water Tiger School is what we call walking the rails. Hence the rails. And what we do in rails, crown point of the head, held, not lifted, right? I'm not doing the lift. It's simply held. Chin from parallel, slight tuck down. That puts the crown point of the head on the center line, navel, nose, over the top of the head. That line is crossed by a line from opening of ear to opening of ear. And that's where approximately where the Bach Way is, the crown point of the head. The 100 convergences. Held, not lifted to the heavens. Chest sunk, back rounded. Perineum anchored to the earth. Those 2 points, up to the heavens, down toward the earth. I think I'm going to have a knot. Yes, I do. Allows the spine to hang. The principle is the spine should hang like a string of pearls. I don't wear pearls that often and know you're not going to learn when. But this is the spine. If this is the anchor's on the earth, then the spine is too flaccid. If I'm lifting, then that creates tension between where the weight is imagined at the perineum and the crown point of the head. That creates stiffness. But if it's held to the heavens and anchored toward the earth, then this is the spine, and that's what we want. The other point that you have to know, crown point of the head, base of the pelvic bowl, ball of the foot, the young quan, the bubbling well cavity. When we walk forward, crown point of the head, base of the pelvic bowl, ball of the foot, no hip tilt. Settle the weight into the right leg. We step to the left. When we're walking forward, it's with the heel. Crown point of the head, base of the pelvic bowl, ball of the foot. Boom. That's rails and walking forward. And we do our pass, hands in one of 5 places. I didn't talk about that because this isn't our exercise for the day, and a little casual closing. Casual closing, we feel Water Tiger School is important. It sort of lets the body, the mind, the chi know, hey, I'm done with this. And since it's rails, there's no way to turn. So then you have to close and turn and go back the other direction. But you want to feel, we were just in the studio this morning, actually, drilling into opening and closing and talking about that importance of something happens upstairs, something happens downstairs. So you have your hands in one of our 5 places. I'll talk about them here in a minute. You take that last step, usually with the right, because our first step is usually with the left, and the hands release from where they are. They're floating up and out, and you sort of see that idea that the hands rising is pulling in that leg. The heel's still in the air. As the hands come in, the heel starts to descend. As the hands go down, the heel finishes its descent. And I can lengthen here, and then that gives me an opportunity to settle back down into my body, and that's settling back down into my body, that's settling back down in my body, that's settling back down in my body, pulls the hands to the dantian. I can also do the same thing to this point, and now to drop the heel as I press down, I'm shortening, compressing everything to then come up out of it and bring the hands to the dantian. So many people, when they close, and hopefully it was very clear there that there was dead parts. Instead of if all of me moves, if part of me moves, all of me moves, if part of me is still, all of me is still. So walking the rails backwards, kind of the same, kind of different. The sameness is crown point of the head, base of the pelvic bowl, ball of the foot. Now, when I'm in the front of the room and we're doing walking exercises, I wouldn't be walking toward the group because then we'd have a head-on collision. I would face away from the group and we'd all walk in one direction. So when we walk backwards, this is the view. Isn't it lovely? Crown point of the head, base of the pelvic bowl, ball of the foot. Now in rails backwards, I'm going to step with the ball of the foot. By the way, those 5 hand position choices, belly, cupped, not interlocked, none of this, on the center line, on the acupuncture point for the Xia Dantian, which is between, for most people, the belly button and the pubic bone. So if your hands are here, your forearms are parallel to the ground, that's going to be too high. That's almost on the Zhang Dantian acupuncture point. Down here, much closer to the pubic bone than anything else. Behind, create a hook with one hand, set the other one in it. Left over right, right over left, both front and rear, whatever feels right. And it might be different tomorrow than it is today. And that's fine. Position 3, floaty wrists. Just activate the wrists. Probably it will pull the arms forward, but I'm not doing this. Not activating the biceps, the triceps, and the elbow joints to hold the hands up. I just want the wrists active, palm down. Don't have to be parallel to the floor. Some people don't have that kind of flexibility. This is fine if that's your flexibility. Lightly closed fists, wrists forward. Now you'll notice here, I'm right next to the body. Here I open up. About 11 years ago, I did this and there would be no change. I have changed. So, well, now I'm making that happen. Boom, that just happens. That's just my structure now. Right? Lightly closed fists, wrists forward, not in. See what happened? They just died. Here, they're alive. And the last position is a position that I normally use when I'm teaching, is hands on my hips. That way, when I'm talking about you shouldn't tilt your hips, you can really see, you know, if I don't do that and I tilt the hips, you probably can still see it, but it's much more evident if my hands are on my hips because my elbows broaden the image of the tilt. It also comes in handy when I'm doing something that involves, you know, a twist, which is, you know, the turn, which is coming up. So crown point of the head, base of the pelvic bowl, ball of the foot. Those 3 points. I have my choice walking backwards as well as walking forwards. I can do the hokey pokey thing, which is I step that left foot out, ball of the foot, ball, instep, heel. When I'm walking backwards, the ball of the foot is the first thing that comes up off the ground. So the foot is coming in and going back out. That is the hokey pokey version of the walk. I can also float the right foot over the right railroad track. For some people, that's easier to maintain shoulder width, which I guess I didn't define, did I? It's the distance between your 2 pieces of tape, everybody. Ha! Shoulder width, I'm going to take a couple more steps, is where the drop of your shoulder is. I started with a step to the left before my camera shot is absolutely just full of cheekiness. I'm going to do my little casual close. Little rebound. Where the drop of my shoulder is, splits the heel and that side in half. So where the drop of my right shoulder is, splits the right heel in half. The drop of my left shoulder splits the left heel in half. Walking forward, walking the rails forward, walking the rails backward. The feet stay parallel. All right, so as I'm walking backwards, my toes are pointing directly away from the device. My heels are pointing directly to the device. Stepping shoulder wide, seeking not to fall into the step. So That's rails backwards. All it is. And by the way, lay out 2 lines. If you have issues maintaining your shoulder width, lay out 2 lines. If you're on a hardwood floor, just count the number of boards between your feet. And when you determine what your shoulder width is, the same number of boards, provided they're all the same size boards. You know, say that 5 boards is my shoulder width. So I'm on board 0 and on board 6. So every step I take, forward or backward, oops, boom, I should look down and go, okay, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I have 5 boards between my feet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I have 5 boards between my feet. But eventually, your body becomes accustomed to what your shoulder width is and will find it, and will always find it. So the Tai Chi walk backwards is a little bit more complicated than that. Now, normally when I present our Tai Chi stance for the first time, at a certain point I'll say, hey, it's like you just took a step backwards. Because our Tai Chi stance, again, shoulder width is determined by where the heels are, not the balls of the feet. Which means if I do this, if I create this dramatic abduction and my toes are pointed out away from my center line, and my heels are close together because the balls of my feet are at my shoulder width, I am not shoulder wide. I'm narrow. If I, let's see, what was I going to do? Go to the heels, and I do that, I am still shoulder wide. Turning the toes out that way. Oh, that's what I was going to do. I was going to turn the heels out, right? If I'm pigeon-toed, but turning on the balls of my feet, yeah, the balls of my feet are still at shoulder width, but I am not shoulder wide because my heels are outside of that space. I can be pigeon-toed by turning on the heels. I'm still shoulder wide. I can be duck-footed by turning on the heels. I'm still shoulder wide. So it's by where the heels are. So in our Tai Chi stance, what's going to be the back foot is going to be the right foot. There's the X. This is my left side. I'm going to turn that right foot out to around a 45. Some people will specify a 45-degree angle. I say about a 45. Because, you may not have the range of motion and have it at a 45. I have sort of a tricky knee. When it's really not happy with me, 45 doesn't feel too good, and I have to be a little bit inside that 45. My left ankle and top of foot has a bunch of metal in it from a non-martial related injury. Should I say unfortunately? I suppose I could lie. So it can't always be at the 45. The front foot, the foot that's going to be in the front, the 45 is the back foot in the standard stance. Front foot is forward. Front toes forward. When I am in this position, my toes should not be out away from my center line. They can also be in, but preferably forward. Back toes at the 45. Squaring off the hips and making sure I'm not twisting my knees as I do that. I'm sitting down into the front leg. About 60-70% of the weight on the front leg, about 30-40% of the weight on the back leg. Heels down, ball foot down, the outside of the instep is down. And we do a rocking exercise where we have to be careful of this right knee because it's back, and I'm going to turn into it. And if you push that knee sideways, it ain't going to be happy with you. So I sit down in that leg, keeping the knee pointed the same direction as the foot. You have just taken a step backwards. The only thing I have to add here is you bring the toes with. In this exercise, when you're doing a static rocking exercise, we tend to leave the toes forward. I might tell somebody bring the toes with and then turn forward so you can end forward. But when we're walking backwards, they have to come with you, because if they do not, again, I always point to St. Charles orthopedists on the North Shore. They're really, really good, right? Not here, but they are going to be there when we walk backwards. You're going to go, what, Lawrence, you just said? This is forward stance, walking backwards. By the time the heel is down, the toes will no longer be there because you're turning on that heel. So to walk backwards in the Tai Chi stance, you can do that on the other side just to feel it out. Left heel on the left railroad track, toes at around the 45. Right toes forward, 60-70% of the weight. Hips are square, shoulders are square. right? I'm not doing this. I don't have this angle. And when I turn back and maybe bring the toes with, that's a step back in our Tai Chi stance. So to do the Tai Chi stance, walking backwards, I'm just going to see where we're at time-wise. Okay, yeah. So I like to start walking exercises in a Tai Chi-like fashion instead of just going, okay, I'm going to put the weight on my right foot, now where am I going to step the left? So I can sort of understand the entire process. Two things you have to know, that you have to actually step beyond shoulder width. Because when I do take that first step, the ball of the foot has to be on beyond shoulder width and already preset to the 45-degree angle. So I drop that heel right at my shoulder width and then bring the other toes with. So just for simplicity's sake, I will still keep referring to the leg that's weighted as the front leg and the leg to which you are stepping into as the back leg. So this is the back leg, it becomes the front leg. Front leg becomes the back leg. So you may have noticed there, my toes end up pointed out. So I'm going to bounce the weight to open this in a Tai Chi-like fashion, hands in one of my 5 places, unless I'm using my hands to talk. I'm going to turn on that heel. I'm going to come up. Another tricky knee thing. Notice I'm facing nose, belly button, knee, toes, all in the same direction. I'm going to turn forward here, and that turning forward releases that left foot, sends it back, ball of the foot beyond shoulder width, heel drops down, as the heel's dropping down, and I feel comfortable with that and balanced as I'm starting to shift the weight into the ball of the foot. I start to turn on the heel of the right foot, and my toes end forward. So I'm going to turn forward, left knee stays pointed the same direction as the left toes. The heel of my right foot releases first, the ball releases, and I step. Ball, instep, heel, turning on the heel of the left foot from duck feet to parallel feet. Turning forward. Turning forward should release the heel, release the ball, and place the foot all. Rolling into that foot, turning on the heel of the other foot. Turning forward. Heel releases, ball releases, step. Now I'm sort of doing the floating step version. You can still turn forward, release the foot, bring it in, and arc it out. We'll do that again. And probably close. And we will do another pass. So why do we do this? Why do we walk backwards? There are 2 postures that we use for which we walk backwards. One is a formal posture in which you walk backwards. You have to learn to walk backwards in the 24 and the long form because repulse the monkey requires that movement. The tendency is for most people when they're walking backwards is to think backwards and simply step back instead of maintain that width that we desire in water tiger school's Tai Chi, which of course is, again, shoulder width is determined by the heels. So there's my heels. Boom. Repulse the monkey. I'm off my blue lines, but you're moving backwards. Roll back in the 4 postures of grass burial's tail, ward off, roll back. We have 2 versions of roll back at Water Tiger School in the 24 and long form. It's more compact in its transition to press, and then you have push. But there's also an earlier version that is a big, long, sweeping roll back into press and push. And when we do the walking exercise, we do a walking exercise to help people understand roll back. We use a large roll back. So we have to know how to walk backwards. So one more pass. We'll call it a video, hopefully. I really hope so. I don't want to do this again. So I'm going to get set up in such a way that I'm going to have to do things the way that I would as I take a step. So I'm going to bounce the weight. I'm going to turn my right foot out, or my left foot out. That's this side. I'm going to bounce the weight into my left. I'm going to release the ball of my right foot. I'm going to put it to the 45. I'm going to come into it, put my hands in one of my 5 places, belly, back, palm down, lightly closed fists, hands on the hips. I'm going to turn forward. Oops, I kind of screwed up that beginning. Let's do that again. Sorry. False start. Take 2. Bounce the weight in the left, turn that right out, come into it, nose, belly button, knee. Oops, I did it again. Turning forward releases, that's what I'm doing wrong. Releases the heel, stepping back, boom. I'm still not happy with that. Oh, that's what was wrong. Take 3. I swear I did it at the first time yesterday. And my toes actually have to be in. That's what I was screwing up. Bounce into my left, turn my right toes out, so now my feet are actually going to be parallel to start this. All right, so my left toes are pointed in, my right toes I've just turned out, putting my hands in one of those 5 places. Turning forward, the heel releases of that left foot, the foot releases, and I take my first step. Setting the ball beyond shoulder width, weighting that left foot, turning the right toes forward, turning forward, right heel releases, stepping the ball of the right foot beyond shoulder wide, heels down, turning those left toes in, feet are mostly parallel. Now you want to keep from bobbing up and down. There's a tendency to sink down here and then rise up here and sink down here. No oompa loompa. Whatever height you're at, you want to maintain the same distance between the shoulders and the floor. Again, you have that choice. You bring the foot in, arc it back out. Bring the foot in and arc it back out, or do the hokey pokey version, or float the foot in a little casual close. Boom. So there you go. Little taichi walk backwards, beginning with a little rails backwards. So you can experience that. Sort of shakes, some people have issues with that, not only, the tendency to think more back than side to side, but that's really it. It's all left and right. It's all obliquely. It's not back or forward in walking forward or walking backward. But the other thing can be actually, I've had some people tell me this. It's like, you don't walk back. How often do we walk backwards in our lives, right? And there's this little mental thing that you don't know what's behind you. Even if you're at home in your own training space, it's like, I don't know, maybe something's changed. Maybe the cats come downstairs. They would have to learn how to open the door because the door is closed. So there you go. I think that's good. I hope you got something out of that. I hope you learned something, maybe picked up if you've been doing this on your own, if you've been part of the program, that maybe you picked up a detail that you hadn't noticed before, or you simply enjoyed the fact that Lawrence completely blew the beginning of the second pass, like time and time again. So you're welcome, audience. You're welcome. So anyway, so remember next week, President's Day, the 15th. That means the 14th is Valentine's Day. Keep that in mind. So no workshop, but there will be, a reminder video with a little, pertinent story for President's Day, shall we say. So there's that. Remember, Canine Companions for Independence, 501c3. And please, we're suggesting in the studio that people double mask. We're not mandating it at this time. We reserve the right to change our minds. And just asking people and suggesting that most of the students are double masking. I do some more, I do much more intense aerobic warm-ups for some of the advanced programs, double masked, and I haven't asphyxiated myself yet. I'm still alive. So
at least a single mask. Please mask up and keep masking. Keep washing your hands. Keep social distance. Stay home when you can. Stay away from big crowds of people. Keep 6 feet apart. I hadn't heard this before the other day, but the 3 W's: wear a mask, wash your hands, watch your distance. Because we got to get to the other side of this, and it's looking good for a number of different reasons. So let us have hope. So take care, be safe, stay well, and you'll see us again soon. I'm not sure what's in queue for the next full workshop in 2 weeks, but I'm sure it will be, 1, something different, and 2, hopefully something that you'll enjoy. Comments. When the video posts on Facebook, of course, it has all the open comments. On YouTube, we do check all the comments before they're published, because back in the day, when we first started this, we got spammed with a lot. I've been sort of hemming and hawing and giving you little hints, but the big hint would be, let's just say that it was suggesting, let's just use the word dates. Relationships? Well, relationships too formal. Yeah, those kind of things. And yeah, no, that's not happening. Oh yes, and pictures. Offering pictures. Links to pictures. So we screen all of the comments, but unless it's crap like that or somebody really flaming us, good or bad comments, we will allow the posts to go through on the YouTube channel. So there you go. Thank you. Take care. Stay safe. And you'll see us next time. Ta.